All right, we've got a mountain of material here, all about requirements, definition,
Oh
documents.
yeah, someone's serious about getting this right.
And when I see Guy Lakeman's name all over these
It's
papers,
a good sign.
it means we're in for some real insightful stuff. So
Totally.
let's dive right in, see what Lakeman has to say about crafting RDDs that actually set projects up for success.
Well, one of the things that struck me right away is how Lakeman doesn't treat these RDDs like, you know,
Just another boring technical thing.
yeah, like just a checklist.
Right.
He really emphasizes this idea of the RDD as the story of the project.
Oh, I like that.
Like laying out that whole narrative arc from the very beginning, the initial need, all the way to,
The triumphant conclusion. And I
exactly.
think that story analogy is so powerful because, think about it, whether you're building, I don't know, a self-landing orbital goods tender
Right.
or like redoing your bathroom,
Anything big or small.
having that clear roadmap, that's what can separate,
A smooth project.
a smooth journey from a total disaster.
Absolutely. And Lakeman really starts by hitting on the why of
Yeah.
RDDs, which is all about defining that need.
Yeah.
The purpose, the scope, right from the start. It's almost like you're setting the stage for a play. And, you've got to figure out the setting, the characters, the plot, before those actors can even,
Take the stage.
exactly.
Okay, so we've got our stage set. What's like the first act in this RDD drama?
Well, Lakeman is a big believer in starting with a solid SWOT analysis,
Okay, yeah.
and he doesn't just, skim the surface here.
Right.
He dives deep into the value of understanding your project's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's really about getting that full 360-degree view of where your project sits in the world.
Yeah, and I can see how that would be so crucial, especially when you're dealing with complex projects with so many moving parts. It's almost like taking inventory of all your resources, your potential pitfalls, before you even,
Before you launch into the unknown.
Right.
And Lakeman makes a great point about considering both internal and external factors in your SWOT.
Oh,
So,
great.
for example, let's say you're building that aquaponic farm
Right.
we were talking about before. You can't just look at your own, resources.
Expertise.
Right. But you also have to look at things like the local climate,
The market.
right? Is there even a demand for what you're going to grow? Are there regulations?
So it's not just what you bring to the table.
Exactly.
It's understanding the whole playing field.
The whole landscape.
Okay.
And that leads us to the next big piece, the feasibility study.
Okay.
Lakeman does not mess around here.
He gets real.
He asks the tough questions like, can we even build this thing? Will it actually work within our organization? And maybe the most important one,
The money question.
will it make economic sense? He even says, quote, will it generate profits?
You've got to be profitable.
That's the reality check so many projects need
It's true. There's no point in building some amazing thing
if you can't afford it.
if it's going to bankrupt you. Right.
Exactly.
And when it comes to feasibility, Lakeman really gets into the different types you've got to consider.
He does. And this is where things get interesting because he doesn't just list them off.
Right.
He connects each type to real world examples.
Okay.
So let's stick with that aquaponic farm idea.
All right.
First, you've got technical feasibility. Like, can we actually build a system that keeps the water at the right
Temperature, the quality.
for the fish and the plants?
Right.
Then there's organizational feasibility. Do we even have the team
The structure in place.
to manage this whole operation?
Yeah, so you've got the technical know-how.
Right.
You've got the team.
Yep.
What else is there?
Well, then there's schedule feasibility. So can we actually do all this in a realistic time frame? And then, of course, economic feasibility.
Mm-hmm.
Is this thing going to make enough money to pay for itself?
Ideally, make some profit, too.
Right. He's saying, dream big, but dream realistically.
I like that.
And he keeps going. There's also legal feasibility,
Oh, all right.
making sure you're not breaking any laws, regulations.
Got to be legal.
Then social feasibility, thinking about how this impacts the community.
And if people even want it.
Yeah. Is there public support?
Wow. So it's not just the technical, the money stuff.
It's bigger than that.
It's really taking into account all these social, even ethical
facts.
Yeah, that's a whole other level.
And that's what's so great about Lakeman's approach. He wants you to really think through these potential roadblocks.
Before you get in too deep.
Make those informed decisions before you invest too much time, energy, resources.
So you've done your SWOT. You've tackled the feasibility study.
You're in good shape.
What's the next step?
Well, now you get to the heart of the RDD, defining those requirements and specifications.
Okay. Time to get into the nitty-gritty.
This is where it gets really detailed.
I'm ready.
Lakeman really emphasizes that the requirements are all about what the system needs to do.
Okay.
And then the specifications tell you how it's going to do it.
So it's like the difference between saying, I want a fast car, and saying, I want a car that can go 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds.
Yes, with a top speed of at least 150.
Those numbers turn a vague idea
Into a goal.
into something you can actually measure.
Measurable targets.
That's how you track your progress.
That's how you know if you're succeeding.
Yeah.
And Lakeman, he's all about those quantifiable metrics. He even says, and I'm quoting here, to the maximum extent possible, it is necessary here to use numbers to describe the system.
No wishy-washy language.
No, he wants hard data.
Show me the numbers.
Exactly.
Great.
And I think that level of precision is crucial, especially with these big, complex systems where even a small mistake can have huge consequences.
Absolutely. And it's not just for the technical side of things either, right?
Oh, wait.
It's for managing expectations between everybody involved.
Everyone needs to be on the same page about what success actually looks like.
Okay, so we've got the SWOT, the feasibility, the requirements, the specs. Are we ready to start building now?
Well, hold on. Lakeman has another trick up his sleeve.
Okay.
Diagrams.
Ooh, I like diagrams.
He's a firm believer in the power of visualization to communicate those really complex ideas in a way that words just can't.
Yeah, I'm a very visual learner, so tell me more.
Okay, so he uses a variety of diagrams, and each one is tailored for a specific purpose.
So it's about choosing the right tool for the job.
Exactly. Like, for showing the step-by-step flow of a project, he often uses waterfall flowcharts.
Oh, cool.
They're great for highlighting those sequential tasks.
Right, so like if you're building a particle collider, you can't just assemble the parts in any random order.
Exactly. The flowchart keeps everything in the right sequence.
Gotcha.
Then there are Gantt charts. Lakeman uses these to visualize timelines, dependencies. You know, imagine trying to coordinate all the teams involved in something as complex as sending people to Mars.
Yeah, that would be a logistical nightmare.
Without a visual representation of who's doing what and when.
It would be chaos.
Gantt charts provide that clarity.
Okay, so we've got flowcharts for sequence, Gantt charts for timelines. What other visual tools does he use?
He's a big fan of IDF0 diagrams.
Oh.
Especially when dealing with really complex systems like, imagine you're building that self-landing orbital goods tender.
Oh, yeah.
An IDF0 diagram would break that whole system down
Into all its parts.
showing how they work together to achieve that landing and deliver the payload.
It's like getting an X-ray of the project.
Exactly. And what's so cool is that Lakeman doesn't just throw these diagrams on the page as an afterthought.
Yeah.
They're integrated with the text. It's a really holistic document.
I like that because, like I said, I'm very visual, so that would make the whole thing so much easier to understand.
Right. And he even says that drawings express the process in a more complete way than linear text can do.
So he sees this visual language as essential.
Absolutely.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together. The SWOT, the feasibility, the requirements and specs.
It all comes together.
The team dynamics, and then these diagrams.
Bringing it all to life.
It's like an orchestra, you know?
Oh, I like that.
Each instrument playing its part to create this beautiful symphony.
That's a great analogy, and I think that's what makes Lakeman's approach so compelling. He doesn't just see the RDD as this dry, technical document.
Right.
It's a story. It's a journey. It's a collaboration that can really turn ideas into reality.
Okay, so we've established that an RDD is a powerful tool, a story, a roadmap, a living document, but I'm still really curious about these diagrams.
Oh, yeah.
They sound like more than just pretty pictures.
They are. In fact, Lakeman dedicates a lot of time to explaining their value.
Well, I am ready to unlock this visual treasure chest.
All right, let's do it.
Let's dive into the world of RDD diagrams next time.
Sounds good.
So we've laid the groundwork for our RDD,
We've got our SWOT.
the feasibility study, those crystal clear requirements and specifications.
Well, details.
And of course, some seriously impressive diagrams.
Oh, yeah. Can't forget the visuals.
But now I want to talk about the people,
The human element.
the ones who actually bring this whole thing to life.
The team.
Lakeman outlined some pretty distinct roles here.
He does. It's almost like he's describing a well-coordinated play, you know?
Oh, I like that analogy.
So first you've got the project sponsor,
Okay.
the one with the vision, and probably,
The money.
the funding. Exactly.
So they're kind of like the executive producer.
Yeah, the one who gives the green light and makes sure the budget's there.
But do they actually get involved in the, day-to-day stuff?
Not really. Lakeman describes their role as more about setting those high-level objectives
Okay.
and making sure the project aligns with the overall goals of the organization.
So they might weigh in on the big decisions.
Right, but they're not down in the trenches.
So who, I guess, down in the trenches? Who's calling the shots on a daily basis?
That would be the project manager.
Okay.
The one who takes that vision from the sponsor and turns it into a plan.
So they're juggling the timelines, the budgets, the resources.
All of it, making sure everyone's working together.
It's like they're conducting an orchestra.
Yeah, keeping everyone in sync.
And speaking of keeping things harmonious, Lakeman really emphasizes the user team,
Oh, absolutely.
the folks who will actually be using the final product.
The end users.
But how do they fit into the RDD process? It's not like they're writing the code or building the hardware.
Right. Their role is more about providing feedback,
Okay.
making sure that the end product actually meets their needs.
So they're kind of like the test audience for a movie.
Yeah, giving those early screenings saying, hey, this part's confusing or this feature is amazing.
Their input can make or break the project.
Absolutely crucial insights.
And then on the more technical side, you've got the project engineer.
Right. Lakeman describes them as the technical lead responsible for the actual design and development.
So they're the master architect sketching out the blueprints.
Exactly. But every architect needs a construction crew, and that's where the project team comes in.
The programmers, the engineers, the quality assurance folks, the whole squad.
All the skilled professionals who bring those blueprints to life.
So how does Lakeman see the RDD guiding all these different players?
He emphasizes that it acts as a shared roadmap, so everyone, no matter their role,
Can see the big picture.
understand the goals, the specs, the timelines, how we're measuring success
It keeps everyone aligned.
on the same page.
But we talked earlier about the RDD being a living document, something that evolves throughout the project.
Right.
Doesn't that create chaos, having the roadmap constantly changing?
That's where strong project management comes in.
Okay.
Lakeman is clear that any changes to the RDD need to be communicated to everyone.
Transparency is key.
Regular check-ins, a system for documenting updates, otherwise it could become a free-for-all.
So it's a balancing act. You need that flexibility to adapt as you go,
Absolutely.
but also the control to make sure everyone's still working towards the same goal.
And this brings us back to that story analogy. Lakeman argues that just like a good story, an RDD needs that narrative arc.
Okay, I'm following you.
It starts with a problem or a need. That's the inciting incident.
Right, the call to adventure.
Then the RDD lays out the plan to solve that problem. That's the rising action.
Building the tension, the excitement.
And hopefully it all culminates in a satisfying resolution where the project achieves its goals, a happy ending.
A successful launch, a thriving business, a problem solved.
Exactly. But Lakeman cautions against thinking of the RDD as just a creative writing exercise.
Right. There's got to be substance behind the story.
It's grounded in data, analysis, meticulous planning.
It's not just telling a good story, it's using that story to guide a rigorous process.
And that's a key point. It's easy to get lost in the technical details, but Lakeman constantly reminds us that the RDD is ultimately about human progress.
It's about using this tool to achieve something that benefits people.
Whether it's groundbreaking technology or just making someone's life a little bit easier.
Okay, so we've established that an RDD is a powerful tool, a story, a roadmap, a living document, but I'm still really curious about those diagrams Lakeman is so fond of.
Oh, yeah.
They sound like more than just pretty pictures.
So they are. Lakeman dedicates a significant portion of his writing to explaining their value.
Well, I am ready to unlock this visual treasure chest.
All right, let's do it.
Let's dive into the world of RDD diagrams next time. Okay, so we've spent the last couple parts of this deep dive really digging into RDDs.
Yeah, everything from SWOT
The
analyses,
feasibility studies, getting clear on those requirements and specifications.
the whole 9 yards.
It's obvious these RDDs are way more than just...
Some simple checklists.
Exactly. But now I want to get to something that adds a whole other dimension to this.
Okay.
Those diagrams Lakeman is so passionate about.
Oh, yeah, he's all about visual.
It's not just decoration, right?
Not at all.
Yeah.
He really makes the case that diagrams can communicate those complex ideas in a way that words sometimes...
fall short.
Exactly.
And being a visual learner myself, I'm totally on board with that. So tell me more.
All right, so Lakeman uses a whole variety of diagrams, which is what's so interesting.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
No, it's about choosing the right tool for the job.
I like that.
So for showing the step-by-step flow of a project, he often uses waterfall flowcharts.
Okay.
They're great for highlighting those sequential tasks, like
I'm with you.
if you're building something in a specific order.
Right. Like you can't just build a particle collider by...
Assembling the parts randomly.
Exactly.
The flowchart keeps everything in sequence.
That makes sense.
Then you've got Gantt charts.
Okay.
Lakeman uses these to visualize timelines.
And dependencies.
Imagine trying to coordinate all those teams involved in sending people to Mars.
Wow, yeah, that would be a logistical,
Right.
without some kind of clear visual.
To keep track of everything.
Who's doing what and when.
Gantt charts provide that clarity.
Okay, so we've got flowcharts for sequence, Gantt charts for timelines.
We've got more.
What other visual magic does Lakeman use?
Well, he's also a big fan of IDEVS diagrams,
Okay.
especially when dealing with really complex systems.
Like our self-landing orbital goods tender.
Exactly. So an IDEVS in a diagram would break that system down into all its functional components.
Okay.
Show how each part interacts to achieve the overall goal, like, say, landing safely and delivering that payload.
It's like taking an X-ray of the project
I like that analogy.
and seeing how all those internal organs work together.
Yeah, and that level of detail can be super helpful for the engineers.
Especially when they're trying to, like, troubleshoot problems.
Right, but what's really cool is that Lakeman doesn't just, like, stick these diagrams on the page randomly.
Yeah.
He integrates them with the written text. It's all part of a single cohesive document.
So it's not just tell me, it's show me as well.
Exactly. He even says that, quote, drawings express the process in a more complete way than linear text can do.
Wow, so he really sees this visual language as essential.
Absolutely.
I think I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together now. We've got that clear purpose from the SWOT analysis.
Right.
The feasibility studies to make sure we're not chasing pipe dreams.
Got to be realistic.
Those detailed requirements and specs, the team dynamics, and then
The visuals.
these diagrams to bring it all to life.
It's like an orchestra.
It really is, with each instrument playing its part to create this like beautiful symphony of a project.
That's a perfect way to put it.
And I think that's what makes Lakeman's approach so compelling.
Yeah.
He doesn't just see the RDD as this boring technical thing.
More than that.
It's a story, it's a journey
A collaborative process.
that can actually turn ideas into reality.
And that's what it's all about.
So that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the world of requirements definition documents. And
I think we covered a lot of ground.
I think the biggest takeaway is that whether you're, building a spaceship
Right.
or starting a business or even just planning a big life event,
A wedding, a move.
the principles of a well-crafted RDD can be so valuable.
Absolutely. It's about defining your goal
Assessing your resources, knowing the challenges
and creating that clear roadmap.
to success.
Exactly.
And never underestimate the power of a good diagram.
As Lakeman says, sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words.
So until next time, fellow deep divers,
Keep exploring
keep learning.
and keep those RDDs sharp.
Who knows what amazing things you'll create.
Out there in the world,